Okay, so before we get into the big stories, I wanted to talk about framing, about the front pages of a couple of different news websites. Today is October 7th. It's the 2 year anniversary of the October 7th attacks. And so obviously, that's the big news story. And as you'd expect on the New York Times, this is not the just when you go to the website, their page, this is the front page. So this is what you see in the print edition, which more, the front page of the website is just constantly updated with new articles. But this is what was printed this morning as the news of the day, right? And so this kind of tells you the priorities. I like looking at this because it tells you more about the priorities of the editors as well as the stories themselves. And I think it's interesting to see what the editors consider important and what they don't. Um, and of course, and then they have this here. We can't, whatever. Yeah. So like you can see, this is live 13 minutes because they're talking about a conversion case right now. They're talking about like current cases. But if you go to today's paper, we get this, and this is the same. It just only changes once a day, obviously. So, and so I was going to show that obviously the October 7th story is the headline, and we have 2 years of war and two stories, one about Israeli hostages, and an Israeli hostage that was released, and kind of talking about her story and what she went through. And this goes over several different Gazan families and individuals and what they've been living through. And I think I've read both of them. I've skimmed through the Gaza one, and it seemed like a good piece. I'm sure that the other one is too. But I want to, before I make any sort of criticisms, let's compare. So this is the main. I picked this because this is mainstream news, right? Well, this also because I read the New York Times basically every day. But this is how it's framed in the New York Times. This is how it's framed, I think, in the mainstream. 2 years of war. We're going to look at the tragedies on both sides. Now let's look at alternative media. We're going to look at two different sources. One is Newsmax, everyone's favorite. And as we can see, it's actually demoted to number 2 of the story. The first story is President Trump to Newsmax. There's an undertow at Fox News. I don't understand it. So obviously the first thing is, and then like about 10 different related stories about how bad Fox News is. I don't watch Rhino Fox News. Actually, a lot of these aren't. These are just stuff that Trump has said. But the most important thing we got to know is that Trump doesn't trust Fox News. Because the most important thing for these guys is not news. It is replacing Fox News, is making as much money as possible. And so they don't really care about, reporting or about like angles or perspectives about the truth, because they're just trying to capture an audience that they think is ready to hear a certain perspective. This Fox News audience, they feel like Fox, because Fox is mainstream media and they are held to some journalistic standards, they know that a lot of their audience is not going to be happy with the reporting that Fox does, because they will occasionally have to tell the truth and criticize the administration. And so these guys are just kind of positioning themselves as the alternative. Shameful, embarrassing. But obviously, and then you look at the October 7th, and I mean, do you see anything about Gazan children's? No. Rabbi Weinstock, hope for peace must prevail. Hamas is compromised thanks to Trump. A girl's life 2 years on from Hamas captivity. Uncle of October 7th victim. Freed uncle waiting for all hostages to return. So it's just solidly pro-Israel. And there's really no sort of deviation allowed. And then finally, I want to compare to the headlines for Democracy Now!, which is my chosen news source, my favorite news source, I should say. I also look at them every day along with the Times. And this framing is Israelis mark second anniversary of Hamas attacks with commemorations and protests. And then right on, we have a story that says Israeli strikes have killed over 100 in Gaza since Trump called for halt to bombings. I mean, it goes on, but I think that those two headlines is what I want to kind of contrast how they frame. Okay, this is the Israeli side and the Gaza side, similar to how the New York Times does it. We have the Israeli side and the Gaza side. But I think it's important the way the stories are framed is the difference. And this is why I look at Democracy Now!, because I think that there is, I think that some people could look at this and see progress. I think the New York Times has generally been pretty pro-Israel and has been very unsympathetic to Gazans. I think it's been shown that they've printed mistruths about propaganda from Israel about Hamas. And so I think that this framing, excuse me, is kind of disingenuous. It's disingenuous to frame these as equal when we know it's not equal. And we know that there have been at least 90,000 killed. And this is a very conservative estimate. I think it's probably much more. Many of these are civilians. The majority are probably civilians. And 2,000. Half of them civilians. Horrible, terrible, no justification. But this is not an equal tragedy. This is not, there are hostages and their story does deserve to be told, but it's not, it is a disgrace to the thousands of Palestinians, the millions that are still displaced, and millions worldwide too. It's not just about the people in Gaza. It's the people who have had to flee because their homes were destroyed. It's just, I think it's really, it's just not accurate to frame these two as the same. And I think that if you push back against that, if you have this instinct, if you see the virtue in this kind of both sides, in kind of a balanced, quote unquote, objective position, I question you to consider where that comes from. Because if you don't know anything about a situation that you're first learning about, I think it is a good idea to keep an objective state of mind. If you know you're going in with certain biases, I think it's best to leave those at the door as you learn about a situation and try to come to your own conclusion. But once you've learned about a situation, I think that if it's a very contentious situation and you still find yourself kind of seeing both the merits of both sides, and can't seem to ever really condemn one or the other, or always are trying to find justifications why both are equally legitimate, you have to ask yourself, am I doing this because it's right, because this is what's actually here, or because this is an intellectually safe position, because I'm actually I am being led towards a certain conclusion, but that's uncomfortable because then I don't have to take a side. And I see myself as like above that sort of thing. I see myself above, being pulled into quote unquote partisan politics. And I question that instinct. I question, because I think that is just allowing you to be pulled, to allow yourself to be controlled by both sides. Whereas I think that people who think that way think that they're avoiding having their brains being controlled by one side. They think if they join one side, they have to, and they probably do, because a lot of people are weak, so they feel like once they pick a side and they have all their new friends on this side, well, now they're locked into these kind of positions. And they feel like if they go to the other side, it's the same. And so they want to kind of keep this neutral objectivity, because it also makes them seem smart. It seems like, well, I'm so smart, I can hold both of these ideas in my head at the same time. And I think that is, you are ignoring the truth, ignoring what's right in front of you. I mean, I heard one commentator say, and I don't necessarily agree with this, but they said, like, this is as black and white as it gets. And I don't know if it's quite there, but I think it's pretty black and white. I mean, we have, again, all you have to do is look at the numbers, to me, to see how black and white it is. There is a huge disparity of who's getting killed and who's doing the killing. And I think if you can't look at that and condemn one side unequivocally more than the other, the side with the weapons, the side with the power to stop, the killing, to stop what's going on, I think that's shameful, that you are committed to this kind of like both sides, this kind of making yourself feel better than really sticking with what you believe, which of course is what you should do. And you should join whatever side, quote unquote, aligns with your beliefs. And to the extent that they don't align with your beliefs, you don't have to necessarily participate with that. But if you define yourself by being in the middle, all you're really saying is, okay, well, I'm just going to decide. I'm just going to let both sides decide what I think. Wherever the left goes, wherever the right goes, I'm always just going to pick myself in between the two. And so you're always just going to be dragged. In the last 30 years, you've been dragged rightward, which is what I've seen happen to most people. As the right wing moves right and the left wing moves right, people just, because they don't want to think, they just pick the middle, and the middle is just moving rightward. And they don't realize they're not thinking for themselves. They're just like any partisan hack, anyone who just goes out and votes blue no matter who, or who pulls a lever for an R next to their name, even if it's a monkey wearing a suit. As long as they got a red tie on, they'll vote for it. You are the same. I want to be clear. These people, these fence sitters, these New York Times columnists, you are the exact same, as far as I'm just going to define myself based on other people's positions, and so I don't have to actually think through stuff for myself. It's intellectually lazy. And that's my little rant to get started. Okay. So moving on from that, let's get into some stories. So, past the Gaza stories, we have, Bari Weiss. I'm sure people have heard, kind of crazy that this is, the next most important story of the New York Times, but I mean, it's media. And I guess, these people work in media, so it's important to them. Excuse me. And it is important. Bari Weiss of the Free Press, which is a Substack page that has like a podcast, a network of a couple podcasts, was bought for $150 million. And I'll just say it, as far as I'm concerned, this was not a payment for a service. This was an initiation. This was Bari Weiss being initiated into the Brahmins. Like, I don't know how much of that money that she's getting. I'm sure it's not 150 million. I'm sure most of it is going to, the investors and, people who put up the money initially for the site, but a lot of it is going to her. And I'm sure she has overnight, become, and I think she was, I don't know much about her past. I don't know if she comes from like money. I don't think that she does. I would assume, I'm just assuming she's middle class. If that's wrong, I don't care. But assuming that that she's, I'm assuming that she's doing well. She was doing well with Free Press, and obviously she was a New York Times columnist, and I think she was doing okay. But she has now catapulted into the stratosphere, as far as she is now one of the decision makers. She is now one of them. She is an elite. She has the kind of money where you can actually donate it to political races, and you can actually influence those races. Maybe not the presidential race, but certainly like local races. Like, she has enough money that she can single-handedly start, swaying those elections now. I mean, you can do a lot with $150 million. And that's only second to, and like I said, that's just the initiation. That is ceremonial into what was really done, which is like, she's now been elevated to be the head of CBS. So in case you haven't been following, David Ellison, the son of Larry Ellison, who is the single largest contributor to the IDF, single largest individual anywhere in the world, single largest contributor to the IDF. And I haven't looked this up, but I have to imagine this the single greatest donor to a foreign military. I don't know of any other billionaires that make money in one country and then give billions of it to a foreign military. But if there is another one, let me know. It seems pretty unique. But his son is now going to be in charge of, he is the head of, I think, Paramount Skydance, and they are buying CBS, he's the new head of Paramount Skydance. And after the Paramount Skydance merger, he's the new head. And he's picked Bari Weiss and I think it is like a totally new position. This editor-in-chief. Editor-in-chief. I don't think that there was a position like an editor-in-chief of, you have editor-in-chiefs of papers. I don't think you normally do of television news organizations or multimedia, whatever you call it now. But it's basically, she has been appointed as the czar, as the censor, to push the kind of the pro-Israel line. She says here she's a proud recipient of the label Zionist fanatic. There was some quote, I think this is from I saw this on Democracy Now. Yes, where a CBS correspondent told The Independent, the fact that we don't have money to pay journalists, but we have money to pay Bari Weiss between $100 and $200 million is indicative of what the Ellison's true goal here, and this is not journalism. So I think that's, I think that pretty much sums it up. I mean, not entirely, but I think that's for the journalists. I think that's what is fair reading. There have been stories of journalists being encouraged to go to therapy. I was reading if they are supporting Palestine, as if that's like some sort of mental condition. This is a crazy. This is unprecedented. I mean, and what's most frustrating is that this is such a blatant takeover of an independent news organization in order to inculcate it with partisan bias. And of course, I mean, I don't care about online, but it's like it is frustrating. The conservatives in my life just totally don't care, totally ignore it. The same people have been complaining about Mark Zuckerberg for the past 15 years. They don't care now that because it was always just about being on the team, being a Trump guy. They have no principles, at least like not conservatives, but the conservatives I know have no principles. And I don't even think they know what their principles are is the interesting thing. There's really not much to say. Yeah, supported by David Sachs, Mark Andreessen, Howard Schultz, a dream team of progressive billionaires. Obviously not. These are ghouls. This was interesting too, I thought. So like she was part of this. She is, like, I think it's set up here too, like radical centrist. She's not a conservative, but she is. I think down here, I think it kind of says all that needs to be said. This really is all that needs to be said about her. I know that just talking to the Federalist Society in 2023. I know that there are people in this room who don't believe that my marriage should have been legal. And that's okay because we're all Americans who want lower taxes. And that really does sum up a lot of these people, a lot of these women and gays and minorities, black people, whatever, who join the conservative party. It is this sense of like, I'm going to get mine. And I'm the only way I can do that is by shitting on my group, is by distinguishing myself as like a token, an Uncle Tom, if you will. And Bari Weiss is okay to do that as long as her main identity, which is Israel, is preserved. And of course, she talks about like cancel culture and stuff. Meanwhile, she was getting professors. She was literally spending her entire college career like tugging on her dean's pant leg, going, "Sir, please fire my professors, sir. They're anti-Semitic because they want Palestinians to have food, sir. Please fire them." And that's basically what she did all of her undergraduate career. And then once she started writing articles about how bad cancel culture is and about how you should be able to say what you ever want, and that Joe Rogan is an enlightened thinker, she said, oh, well, she kind of distanced herself from her campus activities. And then, of course, once the October 7th attacks happened and campus protests erupted, she immediately went back to doing the same thing, trying to get presidents fired, trying to get students fired, trying to get teachers fired. Again, these people love cancel culture. They're the original cancel culture. Cancel culture has existed on the right for far, far longer than anyone on the left has adopted it. Yes, it's bad. It should be opposed, whatever direction it's coming from, but it also needs to be understood, and understanding that it's far more common on the right. It's almost just accepted on the right, just given how, we've seen how people have reacted to it. And if anything's going to change, and certainly if you're going to get me to give much of a shit on the left about like, creepy people getting canceled for saying racist stuff or creeping on women, you're gonna have to get rid of this kind of cancel culture first. So moving on. This one is, I'm just going to kind of go through real quick. The only real story, the real story here is basically that a lot of these emergency rulings that the Supreme Court has been doing all summer are now going to get challenged for real. So as I said here, the summer's traditional recess, it's usually a 3-month stretch of rest and reflection, but instead the judges turn through emergency requests from the Trump administration, and the term ends in June. And this is talking about the Federal Reserve. And since Trump took office, the court's majority has repeatedly sided with the administration, but those came in a series of emergencies, unsigned orders. And so these orders have technically been temporary, addressing whether a legal challenge could be implemented while its legality was tested in court. So basically, while Trump is fighting, the legality in a lower court, the Supreme Court has been ruling that, well, you can go ahead and do whatever you're doing until it's ruled on. But they're not saying it's okay. They're not ruling to say this is totally okay. But now that they are going to be in session, they're going to have to make actual rulings. They're going to have to actually write defenses and orders. They're going to have to reason through what they write, it's, as opposed to just file, just ruling one way or the other on the shadow docket. And it's right now, obviously, and the rest of the article, if you can read it if you want, is just basically speculating on how some of the challenges that are likely to come up, how they might go. The Supreme Court has been I think the Supreme Court has been broken since before the 2000 election, but I think after that point, I think that's like, if Americans weren't going to wake up to that, like, we needed to serious court reform, I don't know what is going to take. Hopefully now that there's a 6-3 majority and Trump is able to do whatever he wants, maybe people will have more of a opposition to it. But right now, this is where we are. Real quick, I almost didn't really want to talk about this one, but yeah, so OpenAI has essentially agreed to a $100 billion agreement. Sorry, no, this was more. So it was last month was the $100 billion agreement with NVIDIA, and now they have an agreement with AMD that I guess they're going to. Yeah, so they're just buying a certain number of chips, but OpenAI is allowed to buy up to 160 million shares, enough to give them a 10% stake. And OpenAI, Amazon, Google, Meta, Microsoft plan to spend more than $325 billion combined on these facilities by the end of this year alone. That is just To put it into context a little bit, and this is just because I was reading about it recently, the bailout of 2008, I think we ended up giving $500 billion to companies like AIG and bailing out the auto companies and whatnot. That's like, so this is like 75%, a little less, like 70% of everything that we spent, in those major bailouts that the government spent in 2008. I mean, it's just unbelievable, the levels. And honestly, the only reason I brought it up is just to kind of ask the question, like, are we going to get the bubble? Is the bubble going to burst now? Like, how much longer are we going to have to wait? And really, I should probably go back and look into the .com bubble and what really kind of finally triggered it off. Finally set the dominoes falling, because I think we're in very much a similar situation. We're just not realizing yet. Or there was an interesting op-ed over here that I don't really want to talk about the op-eds on here because it's just a different sort of thing, but this one was kind of interesting, where it kind of made the case that, like, if you really analyze the economy, if you separate like these like huge tech companies from the rest of the economy, that like it's a much grimmer picture than what it seems like. That there's a lot more stagnation, a lot less job growth, and that a lot of this is all the economy is basically being pulled forward by Nvidia, AMD, Microsoft, Google, and Apple and the like, and I think it's fake. I mean, I think that everybody kind of realizes it's fake, but I think that they're kind of waiting for the shoe to drop, and I think a lot of it is Trump too. I think that a lot of these people are like Trump people, and they want to keep Trump happy, and so they're going to essentially lie to their shareholders. Maybe not lie, stretch the truth. I would never, I wouldn't allege a crime like that, of course, but they're going to stretch the truth until the situation is what they want it to be for Trump. As long as they basically as long as they can, convince their shareholders that things are okay, they will, because that's what Trump wants, and he's going to be more favorable to them and more amenable to them as long as they're on his side and telling everybody what a great job he's doing and what a great economy he's running. Now this one was interesting. I wish I had started with this story, because this is just like classic New York Times, I think. So just read the headline: Kremlin welcomes Trump's blessing of proposal to extend nuclear caps. Now, like, that just seems like there's a lot kind of going on here that could have been condensed, but just real quick. So the Kremlin on Monday said it welcomed President Trump's stated willingness to extend mutual caps on long-range nuclear weapons, demarcating an area where negotiations between Russia and the United States could proceed, blah, blah, blah. Last month, Vladimir Putin of Russia proposed extending for 1 year the extending limits on the number of delayed long-range nuclear weapons under the New START treaty, which expires on February. On Sunday, Mr. Trump said the proposal sounds like a good idea to me. That's the story. That is the story, but they have to frame it as if the story is the Kremlin welcoming Mr. Trump's positive reaction during a call with reporters on Monday, saying it provides grounds for optimism the United States supports Putin's initiative. And of course, that's how we want to frame it, is that, oh, well, the Kremlin is welcoming Trump's proposal. It's not Trump's proposal. It's his blessing of a proposal. And it's a proposal made by Putin, because Putin is the one who is pushing for anti-nuclear disarmament. Putin is the one that is trying to bring us to the table so that we can kind of de-escalate these conflicts. And it's crazy that people in the U.S. think or allow themselves to be kind of brought in by this framing, when you have people in the Trump administration who not only have been arguing against the New START treaty, but have been arguing for pulling out of the nuclear non-proliferation treaty, which is like the most important treaty probably in human history that the international community has ever come up with. Literally, there's nothing even close. And they want to pull out of it. It's some of the most, there's a lot of reckless stuff. This is, along with climate change, the most reckless stuff that the Trump administration engages in. It is just and this is the stuff that, everyone should have known. Count myself as well, should have been much more alert to this and concerned about this when Trump was running. But now we're here, and we're writing articles celebrating that he's kind of saying, oh yeah, maybe that's not a bad idea, when the Russians are practically begging for us to stop shooting missiles everywhere and to come to the table and to negotiate some sort of reasonable agreement between the two countries that Putin can take to his people and not be humiliated with. I mean, it's so simple. But yeah, so I mean, like you can read the rest if you want. It's kind of interesting, but really, it's just. I think to me, the framing is more interesting than even the story. I mean, it's remarkable how deep the bias goes. So yeah, so Greta Thunberg finally was deported along with, I think this is 170 other participants. I think there was 340 total. I don't know where the rest of them are. I wanted to play a real quick clip of her.
And I could talk for a very, very long time about our mistreatment and abuses in our imprisonment, trust me, but that is not the story. What happened here was that Israel, while continuing to worsen and escalate their genocide and mass destruction with genocidal intent, attempting to erase an entire population, an entire nation in front of our very eyes, they once again violated international law by preventing humanitarian aid from getting into Gaza while people are being starved. And we want to also emphasize that we do not only need humanitarian aid to enter Gaza, we need an end to the siege, we need an end to the occupation and the oppression. This action was challenging our extremely violent business as usual that is preventing these war crimes from happening. And that is what this story is about. We cannot take our eyes away from Gaza, from all the places of the world that are suffering, living on the forefronts of this business as usual system.
So yeah, I mean, that's, I mean, I can say it better. Who could? Incredibly brave person. There are reports that she was forced to drape herself in an Israeli flag, and IDF officers took pictures of her. They were also reports that she says that she was put in beds with or put in on mattresses with bed bugs, or given blankets with bed bugs. A lot of the people are reporting being treated this way. Obviously, Israel denies this. They've put out like propaganda videos going through the ships after they clearly cleaned them out, saying like, "Oh, where's all the aid? There's no aid. Like this was never about aid." As if like what, like 340 like Westerners were going to come in with guns and well, apparently with no guns, because you know, you didn't show any evidence of those. They may try to, at least they didn't try planting like a nuclear bomb or something on the ship to allege that of the flotilla activists, but they weren't bringing weapons. So what exactly is the allegation that they were doing? That they were just coming in to just join the struggle and get bombed to death by Israel as well? I don't think so. I think that they were probably bringing aid, and I think that Israel's probably lying. And I think that anyone with a critically thinking and still functioning brain going to come to that conclusion. Finally, from the New York Times, I just thought this was interesting. So they're having elections in Syria, the first ones since the Assad regime. You know what? I'm going to go to democracy now. Oh, I know this is fine. This reporting is okay. Choosing 140 of 210 parliament members, with another 70 to be appointed by President Ahmad al-Shara. So he's going to be appointing a third of the cabinet, and or not the cabinet, sorry, the assembly, their Congress, basically the People's Assembly, and so they had their votes, and people are concerned in the West because they are revolutionaries. They're a bunch of Sunni nationalists, which is like, yeah, I mean, like that's who we've been funding for the past like 10, 12 years. What did you think was going to happen? Like if we know the U.S. is like pouring money and weapons into supporting nationalists because they want to get rid of the Assad regime, obviously there's going to be a huge swath of Sunni nationalism or Islamic nationalism that is going to sweep the country. It's literally what happened in Iraq. It's what happened in Afghanistan. It's what we've done pretty much every time. It was totally predictable. And now we're going through this cycle again, which is now that we have overthrown the pro-Russia regime and installed one allegedly friendly to us, it turns out that like actually they have their own designs and they're not so friendly to us, and they were just being friendly because they were just kind of we were just kind of on the same side of getting rid of this horrible dictator. And now people are upset. Now the U.S. is upset that like now the free and fair elections have supported like these like kind of crazy nationalists, and the people are talking about like, oh, there's not enough women representation, as if that was going to be a thing, as if it's just like crazy, like just trying to put our kind of norms. And not that I mean like there should be more representation of women or whatever in there should be just more representation of the population in every government, certainly in ours, and I'm sure that their government could benefit from it too. But I just think it's just, you can already see it. It's like, ooh, they're engaging in human rights abuses. They're not letting in enough women in. There's too many nationalists. It just feels like, I don't know a lot about Syria, so I don't want to speak too confidently. But it feels like the echoes feel very similar to Iraq, Afghanistan. It just all kind of feels like the same. I think the last thing, this was an interesting from Democracy Now! We talk about the ceasefire. Again, like we talked about before, over 100 people have been dead since the ceasefire was, not since the ceasefire, since the plea deal was offered. Over 100 are dead. I saw also that I think since the ceasefire in Lebanon, I think over 100 people have been killed by Israel. They're doing like daily raids during their ceasefire. This article talks about just kind of gives an overview of the situation on the ground right now from someone who's there. So it's kind of interesting. And then finally, I think is this about, this is a story about the invasion of Chicago by Trump and by these masked men. This is one of those is Jesse Fuentes, an alderperson in Chicago, who was detained when she was asking if they had a warrant for someone at a hospital.
Under arrest. You are going to be placed under arrest.
Do you have a signed judicial warrant for him?
This is the alderperson who's being under arrest. I need my other staffer who's in the hallway by registration to come here, please.
I did not touch you.
I told you to leave.
I did not touch you. I did not touch you. I did not touch you. I asked you if you had a signed judicial warrant for him. It is very simple. It is very simple. That man has constitutional rights. I did not touch you. This is a public space. I am not trespassing. I am asking you. Do you have a signed judicial warrant? I am asking. Do you have a signed judicial warrant for him? It is a question, sir. You are an agent. You are a federal agent. You are a federal agent. I am an elected official and I'm asking.
Under arrest.
Yeah, so she was asking if they had a warrant, and they just arrested her because these are masked goons and they can do whatever they want. And I'm sure you heard about the Chicago raid that they went down, and they rappelled down Black Hawk helicopters onto the roof of an apartment building and zip-tied American citizens in the hallway, separating children from their parents. And that's what the Republicans want. That's what they voted for. That's what they support. I will say this to finish off. I think that if you wear the uniform and you put the red, white, and blue, the flag on, and you wear it with pride, and then you turn your guns and weapons on American citizens, I don't think that there's anything bad enough that can happen to you. And I think I'm going to leave it at that.